وحدا على السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين، بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to make this majlis a majlis of ma'rifah, a majlis of noor, that remains for us in our graves and an asset for us in our hereafter, inshaAllah. And all that will be mentioned here, Allah, this mahabbat that we have towards the Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam, and the glorious Quran never ever be seized away from us, may that be here or in the hereafter. We have got together to speak a little bit about Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam, our 9th Imam, born in Medina on the 10th of Rajab 195 after Hijrah, and is also known as the youngest Imam or Shababul A'imma, whose lifespan was only 25 years. And the duration of the Imamat of this Mazloom Imam was 17 years, and at the age of 9 he arrived at the rank of Imamat. The father is Imam Rida alayhi salatu wassalam. So on the 29th of the Qad, Imam alayhi salam was killed, was martyred, upon the instructions of the Mu'tasim Billah La'natullahi alayhi, one of the Abbasi Khulafa, and poisoned due to his knowledge, due to his rank, due to that rank that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala had given him. We believe that the Imam is an Imam even when he is in the womb of his mother, and likewise it is the Prophet that An-Nabiyyu Nabiyyu fi batni ummih. The rank of the Imamat was given to this Mazloom Imam at the age of 9, and for the Imam it doesn't matter what age he is. It is not like us that at the age of 15 he gets to the taklif or things become obligated upon him. For an Imam it's from birth until the day of his demise from this dunya that he is obligated to the divine commands and the divine duties. Imam alayhi salam, he got the Imamat at the age of 9. We have Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam at the age of 5. And then we do have an example from Quran, Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, that Risalat and that Nubuwwat was given to him at birth, that when he comes in support of his mother and he speaks to the people saying that Inni Abdullah Atani al-Kitab wa ja'alani nabiyya, and Allah has made me the Prophet, he has given me the book. So the Prophet, in the lapse of his mother, at that early days of his birth, he speaks and informs the humanity that he is among those who has been seconded by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. With reference to Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam and the Shabab al-A'imma, that what we do have regarding our worldly affairs and difficulties that generally people they face, they say that whenever you have a problem in this world, in this dunya, anything related to this material life, like for example marriages or births or even jobs and finances, etc., the best outlet is Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam. And one of the best ways that is given is by seeking the Imam with Ziyarat Aminullah. If you recite that daily for at least 40 days, whatever your hajat be, that will be granted to you, for by the mediation and the shafa'at of the Imam alayhi salam. Now in this pandemic that we are in, and we need protection, we need a Here the Hirz Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam, it is the best guard that can be presented. It is a small dua that generally you have it engraved in your rings. But what that dua is that has been reported from the Imam alayhi salam, he says that if you encountered armies of Turk and Romans and they were the dwellers of the earth, they stood against you, that what would do you no harm and would be the best of protections for you is this little hirz or this little dua from Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam. And it is a protection in all worrisome tasks, in balas and trials from the skies and the earth, whatsoever it be. It is recommended and emphasized a lot that you carry it with you, or at least recite it once every day. It's a small dua. You can write it down and says, Ya Nuru, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya Nuru, Ya Burhan, Ya Mubinu, Ya Munir, Ya Rabbi, Ikfini ash-shurur wa afat ad-duhur, وَأَسْأَلُكَ النَّجَاةَ يَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي السُّورِ. This is that hairs of Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam. Now coming to some of the sayings of the Mazloom Imam, one of them, it's from the Imam, he says that كَفَاكَ أَدَبًا لِنَفْسِكَ مَا تَكْرَهُهُ لِغَيْرِكَ, says that this is sufficient to educate yourself, that you refrain from all that you dislike for others. So whatever you like for yourself, that should be what you like for others. In another quote, Imam alayhi salam, he says that Al-Mu'min yahtaju ila thalath khisalin. A mu'min, he requires three qualities. First of all, tawfiqun min Allah, and that is tawfiq and an opportunity that is given to you from Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, wa wa'idatin min nafsih, and you need a mentor from within who constantly advises you. So we need a teacher, we need a mentor who constantly educates us, advises us, wa qabulan mimman yansahuhu. And the third one is that he accepts that advice. If you have these three qualities, you will be successful, you will be prosperous. In another quote, Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, he says that belief in Allah is the price of everything difficult and is the ladder to every height and perfection. That we can see it in this day and age. All these problems that come across towards us in grief, in agony, in all this distress and disturbance that we see, those who have the strongest of faith and iman and in Allah Jalla wa'ala are the ones who benefit the most. No matter how many powers they may stand against you, but if the bonding is with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, who is the Almighty, then no one could do you any harm. That depression, that distress will never come around a mu'min. With reference to the creation of man, Quran says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created weak. Now this weakness of man is seen in his entire existence. Now when we stand in worship before Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and we start with a Allahu Akbar, that is, Allah is greater. So throughout this salat, from the Takbiratul Ihram until the salam that we recite, we continuously keep on remembering and reminding ourselves that Allahu Akbar, Allah is great. We recite verses from His book and then we bow down and ruku and then followed by that sajda. So all that is bowing down before the greatness of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So the greatness of Allah is understood. That what is to be understood even more is the weakness of man. That is, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. He is very weak. And the more a person bows down before the existence of the Almighty, that strength is given to him. Now when you recite this dua Kumail inshallah tonight, there you would come and see how Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, he pleads before the existence of God and portrays his weakness before him. Now in another quote, Imam Jawad alayhi salam, he is seen saying that Mawtul insan bil-dhunub aksaru min mawtihi bil-ajal. That is, man's death by sinning is greater than his dying through death. And then Imam continues saying, وَحَيَاتُهُ بِالْبِرِّ, أكثر من حياته بالعمر, and his living, his living, that is far greater than the good he does than living his age. So here says that by sinning a person dies, and by doing good a person lives. So the life given to a person that he gets through doing the good deeds and actions, that is that age that has to be counted, not the years a person lives. So beautiful quotes from the Imam, and once again he says that man atamma ruku'ahu lam tadkhulhu wahshatul qabr. Now this is a lesson to myself and to you all, brothers and sisters, that the salat that we offer, it has to be before the existence of God, a service that we bow down in humility, in shame before Him. Here Imam says that one who performs a complete ruku, he will not be afflicted with the loneliness, with that wahsha, with the horror in the graves. So if we want to be safe in our graves and in our onward journeys, that ruku in our prayers, that has to be performed correctly. Says if that is done, then you will be safe from the horror of the grave. Now we have a hadith that says that all these prayers that we offer throughout our life, Imam says that if only one of them was accepted and was correct, or two of them were accepted and were correct, says all those faulty prayers that I offered throughout my life will be corrected by those two or one correct prayer that I offered in my life. So it seems to be a big challenge, where Imam has mentioned it as such, that prayer's importance has to be given to it, and among them is the ruku. In another quote, Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, he says that humility and humbleness is the beauty of knowledge, and being well-mannered is the beauty of that aql, that intellect, and greeting one another with joy is the beauty of that knowledge. So akhlaq is being mentioned over here, that ilm that we have is being mentioned by the Imam alayhi salam. Now what we have in our life, it's that association. If that association is good, then a person, he has a good end. And if God forbid that association is bad, or the friendship is not safe, we find that the end of an individual also is not good. Now in the tarbiyats, or the upbringing of an individual, ulama of akhlaq, they mention 5 cycles, 5 stages. The first stage is prior to the inception of man, that is the parents, they have to go through, that how they have to dwell and eat, earn and feed themselves. And then it is the inception stage, and then it is the stage of gestation, when the baby is in the womb of the mother, what mother has to, how she has to behave, her worship, her consumption, and then it is the birth of the baby. And here comes another stage wherein the parents, they play a role in how they upbring the child. And finally it is the stage in the society, that how in the society who he befriends with, who is friends with, and how his friend deals with him. If he gets a good friend, and if all those 4 stages until his birth and then him coming into the society were all negative and bad, that good friend will give him a good end. And if all those stages were good, and the friend, which is the final stage, was bad, that would ruin and devastate all that hard work of the parents, and he would ruin his own fate and his destiny. Imam says, إِيَّاكَ وَمُصَاحَبَةَ الشَّرِيرِ, that is, do not be friends with the mischievous, with the evil. Why? Says, فَإِنَّهُ كَالسَّيْفِ الْمَسْلُولِ يَحْسُنُ مَنْظَرُهُ وَيَقْبَهُ أَثَرُهُ. Says that friend who is mischievous, who is evil, is like a naked sword. Looks nice, but the effects of that sword, they are fatal. They would devastate, they would ruin. Among the teachings of this Imam alayhi salatu wassalam are that Imam says, recite Suratul Qadr a lot, and then perform istighfar also a lot. Istighfar means to seek forgiveness of Allah. That is, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah wa as'aluhu at-tawbah. Whatever format you like, you can perform this istighfar, because istighfar is one of those recitals which helps achieve and attract the mercy of Allah wa ta'ala, which helps in the uplift and the elevation of the du'as that we have before Allah Jalla wa Ala. Suratul Qadr also, because it is the surah of wilayah. That what brings everyone close to the existence of Allah is the wilayat, and that is accepting the custodianship of ma'sumeen in all walks of life. And that means that whatever the Prophet has said, whatever the Imams have commanded us, we abide by their instructions. Whatever they have forbidden us, we keep away from all that what they have forbidden us from. So that is that accepting the wilayat of the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam in our life. Now this acceptance of the wilayat of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, it has such beautiful effects in this dunya and in the akhirah. A quote from Faiz Kashani, he is reporting this hadith. Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam, he comes by the bedside of someone who is giving away his life, who is dying. Now this person on the deathbed is a good Shia. He is worried of death. The moment he saw the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, he burst into tears. He cries a lot, and Imam says, what is the reason for this worry of yours? He says that I am reminded of death and Qiyamah, and this affliction that I have, this disease that I have, it is going to take me to death, and I am worried of my hereafter. But the moment I saw you, I feel relaxed. Imam says that death for mu'mineen, it gives an example, says that assume someone having a skin disease with all blisters on his body. Now these blisters from head to toe, they pop, and then his wound, it get wounded, and those wounds, they heal, and then they are still there, and another blister pops, and this entire body is like that. And then Imam says, if he is told that there is a cure, there is a medication, that when this body of this individual afflicted with this skin disease is washed, all of those blisters, they would vanish, and the skin would be as if he has just been born. Says, how will that be? He says, that would be marvelous. Here Imam says, death for mu'mineen is like that. All these pains and distress, this grief and this agony that they go through in their lives, death, it comes and removes all of that distress away from them. And this bonding with the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam is such that Allah tabarak wa ta'ala wants to transfer the mu'mineen from this abode to the next abode, cleansed and purified and clean. And that is why they go through all these phases in their life, and death for mu'mineen is cure. And we've got loads of riwayat here, and then ayat from Quran again, that Imam says, do not worry, do not be afraid. And then when you see Quran, there says, Hada bayanun linnas. This is an explanation for mankind. What is that? وَمَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and it وَمَوْعِظَةٌ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and it is an advice for the believers. What is that advice? وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا, that you do not weaken, you do not grieve. That is, وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ, and you have the upper hand. You are the ones who are prosperous. You are the ones who will be safe. This is regarding some of the sayings from the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. Now we came to this point where bonding with the Imam has such beautiful effect. Now one of these examples that can be mentioned over here is from Shaheed Nawab Safavi rahmatullahi alayhi. He says that Nizam-e-Rashti, this famous Iranian poet, he was his guest. Now Nizam-e-Rashti, his wife, she passed away before him, and he was living with his daughter, falls ill, and his daughter says that he says to his daughter that soon I will depart. Now he is a poet, and he has written all these poetries for the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam in love of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, and he says, soon I'm going to depart. Performs a wuzu and says to his daughter, now because he is paralyzed, he cannot get up, he cannot move from his bed, says to his daughter that I want you to sit by my head and hold my hand. And I am positive and I am certain that in the last moments of my life, and to greet me and to welcome me, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein will definitely come to me. She says that I sat by the head of my father, holding his hand. He had instructed me, the moment I squeeze your hand, you make me sit and then help me stand up. He squeezes her hand and she helps him sit, makes him stand, and then he says, Awajan Umadid, Assalamu alayk ya Aba Abdullah. With a smile he departs from this dunya. And then when he was seen from Barzakh a few days after his demise, and because he was a poet, someone who saw him, he says that I asked him, where are you and how are you? And after all these services and all these poems that you had recited in love and in the devotion of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, how are you and what position and rank were you given and how were you greeted there? In reply, this poet says, Shukr Khuda ra ke dar panah Husaynam alam az in khubtar panah nadarad. Thanks to God that I am in the shelter of Hussein, and there is no shelter better than that of Hussein. So this is a fact that death is tough, but for the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, it is easy, and they help, they bail us out. And that is that Iman, that taqwa that a person has, which is mentioned in the first few ayat of Surah Baqarah, that a person benefits by bonding to the Ma'sumin alayhim salam. Now when we see the Dua Kumail, there it says, Ya Nur al-Mustawhishina fil Dhalam. Ya Nur, O light of those who are disturbed, of those who are alienated and alone, fil Dhalam, in the darkness. Now, in this darkness that we are in, or in the distress that we are in, we need help, we need support, and the best of support can be sought by the Ma'sumin and from the Ma'sumin alayhim salam. Marhum Haj Sheikh Abbas Qummi, the author of Mafatihul Janan, this great alim who wrote this book, which took few years, and then prior to the publication of that, when it was all complete and ready, he doesn't print it. The students, they come and say that, why don't you print? He doesn't answer. 2 years passed, and then the book is ready, has not gone into printing, and after 2 years he publishes the book. And then the book gets sold so fast. Now the students, they come and tell the writer, Marhum Sheikh Abbas Qummi, had you printed the book 2 years ago, you would have gotten so much of ajr and reward, and why was this delay, missing out on all that thawab and ajr? He says that I wanted to practice the entire book myself first, all those ziyarat, all those prayers, all the observances that I have written for the people to observe, I practiced them myself, every bit of it, for 2 years, and then I made it public. And that is the reason why we see that after the publication of the Holy Quran, the book which is published the most in the Shia world is this Mafatihul Janan, and that is a result of the ikhlas, the sincerity of this great writer, this great alim. And that is as a result of being nurtured and mentored in the schools of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Now this great alim is buried besides his Ustad Mirza Hussein Noori, and after his burial, his son says that when I saw my dad saying that Imam Hussein has visited this cemetery 3 times after his burial. So Ma'sumin alayhim salam, they never leave anyone, stranded, and this bonding with them, it's a protection from the chastisement and from every kind of horror and azab in the hereafter. Now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says to Hazrat Fatima alayha salam that, Ya Fatima, Salini, ask me, Otika, I will give you. And then says, وَتَمَنِّي عَلَيَّ أَرْضِي, and says, ask me whatsoever you want, Fatima, that contentment of yours will be sought. She in reply says that أسألك أن لا تعذب محبي ومحب عترتي بالنار. That Father, I want you not to punish anyone, who loves me and whosoever has loved my itra, my descendants, my progeny in the fire. That is, the statement is from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to Hazrat Fatima. So Allah speaks to her, she replies to the Almighty Allah. And then the Almighty Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He says, Ya Fatima, wa izzati wa jalali, Fatima, by my honor, by my might, wartifa'i makani, and by this exalted rank of mine, says, لَقَدْ آلَيْتُ عَلَى نَفْسِي مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ أَخْلُقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بِأَلْفَيْ عَامٍ أَنْ لَا أُعَذِّبَ مُحِبِّيكَ وَمُحِبِّي عِتْرَتِكَ بِالنَّارِ. By my dignity, by my might, I have sworn 2,000 years prior to the creation of the skies and the earth to not punish those who love you and those who love your itrat, your progeny, in the fire. So one day the Prophet ﷺ was very happy when he came to us. Abdul Rahman bin Auf, he says that, why are you so happy, Ya Rasulullah? The day the Almighty intended to wed Fatima, which was yesterday, the first of Zil-Hajj, intended to wed Fatima alayha salam to Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam, he instructs an angel to shake the tree of Tuba in the heaven. He shook. And from the leaves that fell from that tree, there were some leaves on it was written something. Those leaves on which that phrase was written, they fell to the ground. And says, from those leaves, angels were created. Now those angels with those notes in their hands, they would appear amidst the congregation or the crowd on the day of judgment. And on the day of judgment, these angels with these notes, they will spread amidst the gathering and give this note to each and every sincere lover of the Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. So what is written on that note or that card, you could say, says, Bara'atun lahu minan nar min akhi wabna ammi wabnati. Says this is a protection from the fire, a salvation from the fire, from my brother, from my cousin, and from my daughter. وَفَكَاكَ رِقَابِ الرِّجَالِ وَنِسَاءِ مِنْ أُمَّتِي مِنَ النَّارِ, and freedom of men and women from my nation from the fire. So this mahabbat that we have towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam is great. So these observances that we have in remembrance of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, these are special favors of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala upon those chosen selected people. Now when we see the entire creation here, this world, how many are among the followers of the Imams alayhimus salam? How many mention and utter the name of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam? All this mishap that we see in the entire creation is because of this love that we have towards the Ahlul Bayt. And since the inception and since the arrival of Rasulullah and then Amirul Mu'mineen and right up to now, it's the Shias who are being tortured, who are being tormented, who are being afflicted and hit, and all that because of that love and mahabbat towards Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, Wallah la yamutu abdun yuhibbullah wa rasuluhu wa yatawalla al-a'imma fatamassahu an-nar. Says that no mu'min, by God, no mu'min who loves the Prophet and the a'imma would die, and then that fire would come and get hold of him. It is impossible. By God, that will not happen. Man ahabbana ahlul bayt, whosoever loves us, the ahlul bayt, hasharahu Allah ta'ala aminan yawm al-qiyamah. Allah will resurrect him. Allah will raise him protected and safe on the day of judgment. Ma ahabbana ahlul bayt ahadun fazallat bihi قدم إلا ثبته قدم أخرى, says that with this love that you have towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, even if a qadam, if a foot shakes there, says Allah will hold on to the other foot so that he doesn't fall, he doesn't fall. أخرى حتى ينجيه الله يوم القيامة, until that Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, he will save him in the hereafter. So this is that love and muhabbat towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and all that effect that it has in this dunya and in the akhirah. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala help us bond with the Ahlul Bayt, and this love that we have towards them remain forever in this dunya and in the akhirah. And Quran says it's not just the mere love that you have towards them. Love is obedience. إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. If your claim is that you love them, then you have to be obedient to them. Being obedient to them means whatever they have said has to be done. Whatever they have asked us and forbidden us from has to be refrained. That is obedience. That is wilayat. That is accepting the Imams, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, in all walks of life as our custodian. And that is what Allah tabarak wa ta'ala has asked us. And with that, a person, he will be safe in this world and in the hereafter. Ya Allah, بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها يا الله 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 اللهم أحينا حياة محمد وآل محمد وأمتنا ممات محمد وآل محمد اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة محمد وآل محمد وفي الآخرة شفاعة محمد وآل محمد. For all those who are ill and ailing, Allah grant them shifa. All those who have passed away, Ya Allah, forgive them, elevate their ranks. A share and of this majlis that is being conducted here be delivered to every one of them. The first of those who was called and who was a mu'min from among our ancestors, Allah forgive him, as a result of which we are all called and classified as the followers of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Ilahi, our death be the sweetest moment of our life. Our children to be enlisted among the best of servants and supporters of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma ja'al awaqib umurina khayra wa subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillah rabbil alamin.